you and I walk into a room and everybody's heads turned and we're just there. We just show up.
Yeah.
I think showing up is something else that you guys need to make sure that happens. And that's not just physically. That's not just like being present. It's being present. It's being present. It's being present.
All right.
You know what time it is.
All right. Whoa. All right.
You know what time it is.
Beep. All right. So people are like your biggest tips on like 3 success tips when negotiating a wholesale deal, and it's like,
3 tips.
And the thing, it's like, honestly, like it depends on what day you catch me as to like what tip I would give.
Yeah.
Because it changes. You know what I mean?
Well, every customer or every seller is different,
right? Or
every buyer is different. You know,
I think one like when you're negotiating, I think that I like what you always say is like a no big deal attitude. I think no matter whenever you and this is like like for me, it's like I do deals even outside of real estate. You've done deals outside of real estate. I think that no big deal attitude is huge because like people can sense when they feel that you have something on the line.
Yeah.
And, that's the big, because people want what they can't have. And we're just like, oh, okay.
Yep.
And they're like, then they start to hesitate and you can actually like listen to it in people's voices as like when they can legitimately tell that you have a no big deal attitude. Because it's like, you can always tell when someone...
It's almost like the takeaway clause.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you take something off the table, it makes them want it more.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, you guys, like if you're watching this, just make sure that you have this no big deal attitude that we talk about all the time. It's got to be the number one tip.
I would say so.
It's got to be.
Because it's, I think so. Because it's like when you think about it like that, is like that'll actually help it make it easier for you to... make calls too.
Yeah.
Because if you don't really care about you care, but you're just like, because a lot of times people get like, they tell themselves a story of like what the call is going to be like. And then they don't make the call. And then like someone else makes the call. And I'm like, it was the nicest person ever.
Yep. And little did they know you were even nicer.
Right.
It's interesting you say that because as you're saying that, I think if I was to give like a second tip, it kind of stems from that. It's that confidence.
Right.
I mean, you and I walk into a room and everybody's heads turned and we're just there. We just show up.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think showing up is something else that you guys need to make sure that happens. And that's not just physically. That's not just like being present. It's being present. It's being present. It's being present. It's showing up emotionally, spiritually, and physically, and more than just physically, and having just that wherewithal to engage when it's time to engage. Listening. Like,
yeah.
I mean, how important is listening?
Definitely. I would say listen is huge when you're negotiating. Listening.
Yeah. Because
it's like when you are paying attention to what they're, it's like listen, don't listen to respond. Because it's like a lot of you guys are using scripts that like you've gotten from different groups and stuff. And, it's good to have a script. It's good to have a format, like we use a script, but we also say that like, there comes a point to where it's like you're teetering is the word that you use a lot. You go from one part of the script back to and you do that by actively listening to what they're saying.
Oh, dude. So this is actually a cool learning example or opportunity for both of us and for you guys watching. Like, so I was working with my coach just the other day.
Right.
And my coach asked me about our process. And I was telling him about the 5 steps to every conversation.
Right.
And he asked me if I was aware of processes versus procedures.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, I've heard that.
Right.
And being that you and I have both studied neurolinguistic programming for years, it never stood out like this. And we started breaking this down. And one of the things I think that every negotiation has to have is the understanding of, is this my process or procedure, or is this an option? And what I mean by that is we have this 5-step process. This is our procedure.
Right.
But inside of these 5 steps, there's options. Like if they say this, I can go this way.
Choose your own adventure.
Exactly. Okay. Right. And so we use this actually with Cranston, my son, and we broke down like, when you come home, here's your procedure. Yeah. You have this much time, so you have options. Right. And I think that one of the key things that I've learned over the years, you guys, is that when going into negotiations, understand your procedure, but know that you have options. Like, don't be stuck on stupid and like, this is the only way that I got to do it. I got to do step 1, step 2, like that teeter. Yeah. Know that you have options. If they mention something about their wife, ask them a question about their wife. If they mention kids and you're talking about the roof, ask them, like, do your kids climb up on the roof? Is this safe? Yeah. You know, and teetering back and forth in the options, knowing that your procedures will always carry you through, I like that. Was a huge, like, aha for me. Yeah. And I mean, we've been doing this for years, and I just learned that the other day.
You got to be a student.
Simple.
So, we've got no big deal attitude. We've got listen and,
procedures and options.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the last successful tip, like when you're negotiating, I mean, it's always, you say it all the time, is like, know your numbers. Yeah. I think that's a huge thing. And I think it goes without saying. I mean, I wouldn't even say knowing your numbers, be confident about your numbers, because I liked, when you and I were talking about like some of the biggest mistakes you made, or like that even that I made, like I would overthink the numbers, and you were just like, I shot.
Yeah, this is what it is.
So I would say be confident about your numbers. Whether they're right or whether they're wrong, be confident about your numbers, because if you got a no big deal attitude and you're listening and you have those options, because like those options come into play when you're listening. Because it's like, okay, cool. Like I'm hearing what they're saying. I can go this way. I can go this way. And then you're like, this is my number. Yeah. And if you're confident about the number, it's going to make them think, because it's like, you've got that no big deal attitude. You're like, I'm going to offer you $100,000.
Yeah.
And it might be right. It might be wrong, but you've been listening. So I would say like, really like those 3 things, when you like, that's like, they're really going to like, you're going to win more often if you're just like, yeah, like this is you take it or leave it.
Nail in the coffin, final thought.
Yeah.
All the way through those 3 things when we're negotiating any deal, and you and I both know this, and I think that they should too.
Yeah.
Make sure that your questions that you're asking pertain to the topic at hand.
Yeah.
One of the biggest mistakes that I think that most people make is they want to ask about the roof or the foundation or this or that, when your prospect or your client right in front of you just talked about the kitchen and how proud they are. Like, ask them a question about that.
It goes back to listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like ask on topic questions, because they're just going through the script. Like we were talking about process and procedures. So I'd say those 3 things will help you win more often than you will lose.
That's it, you guys. Peace. It's already there.
So we had to take off the entire roof and redo it. So it ended up costing us like $35,000.
What was your biggest lesson that you learned from that?